The Real Outdoor Experience is brought to you by Fast Track Performance. Share our passion. Vortex Optics, the force of optics. And Bullseye London, Canada's sport shooting supply source. Now let's keep it real.
Hi everybody, welcome. It's Carl and Ian again from the Real Outdoor Experience. Thank you so much for staying tuned throughout our whole season. This is episode 4. Episode 4 of our turkey hunting series for beginners. This one's all about tactics. This one will teach you all the things you need to know to get out in the field and really be successful at turkey hunting. It's not as easy as it looks, but I can certainly tell you, Ian knows the same. You really need to know what you're doing out there. This is designed to help you. So stay tuned, we'll get right back at it.
Fast Track Performance is your local dealer for everything Arctic Cat and Kawasaki. Fast Track is a full-service dealer with a friendly sales staff and a dedicated and knowledgeable service team. If you need accessories, parts, or just want to browse their over 10,000 square feet of inventory, get there today. Fast Track Performance is your local dealer with a down-home feel. Check them out at www.fasttrackperformance.ca. Share our passion.
Hi everybody, welcome back. Scouting is probably one of the most important aspects of turkey hunting as well, and starting your season on the right foot. Obviously you can't shoot a turkey if there's no turkeys in the area that you're hunting. So finding out where the turkeys are, then getting permission to hunt those properties, and then being able to understand the lay of the land and the natural flows of the property that you're going to be hunting go. Now you have a property hunt, you know it's going to hold turkeys. The next step in your scouting is to go online at home and look at Google Earth. I can't say that enough. Or download iHunter, look at the satellite imagery of the area that you're going to hunt. You're going to be able to see ridges, valleys, creeks, natural pinch points that animals are going to flow through, and whether you're hunting deer or turkeys, it's exactly the same. But being able to see that from the satellite imagery, when you actually get boots on the ground and you're in the woods that you are, you've got a much better idea of how you're going to approach it from a hunting perspective. Nothing wrong with carrying a crow call or a hawk screen, using those shot calls to get a gobble going and seeing turkeys. Once you've actually got binoculars on your flock of turkeys, watch them from a distance, but don't try to get too close. There's absolutely no benefit to getting up close to those turkeys prior to a hunting scenario. The last step in the scouting process, ideally the day before you're going to be hunting, is to getting out on the property that you're going to be hunting the next day and trying to get on that flock of birds. If you can see where the turkeys are at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, watching for binoculars from a couple hundred yards away, if they go into the woods at a certain corner in a field, that's where they're going to be coming out of the field in the morning. That's called putting the turkeys to bed. Being able to watch them from a distance, find out where they're going to be roosting, being able to get in as, not too close to where they're roosting, but as close as you can, the chances of a successful hunt the next morning that much greater. Turkey hunting day definitely has a sequence. Ideally, I like to get into the woods while it's still dark, put the turkeys to bed the night before, or I know exactly where they're roosting anyways, because you will get to know your properties like that. I like to get into within, that 150 to 100 yards, no closer because you just wind up busting your birds. Getting the decoys, into the field while it's still dark is important because they can see out into the field. As soon as it starts getting light, as soon as they're awake, they can see what's going on in the field. And if they watch you putting your decoys out, they're never going to come in.
Take us up.
It is a mistake that everybody will make at some point because they don't always roost in exactly the same spot either. You're hearing gobbling. They're turkeys. You can hear them fly down. You might even be able to see them in the fields, but then they're gone. They've disappeared. They will come back to that area eventually, but if you've been sitting from 5 in the morning and now it's 8:30, 8:45, and you haven't heard a gobble in an hour, you're going to want to get up and stretch. And this is recreation. It's not our jobs for most of it, so I don't want it to be too punishing. But that's a great time to maybe go back to the truck, have a cup of coffee, kind of regroup, and then figure out what your next strategy is. And that's when most of us will do what we call the running and gunning or spot and stalking. Tough to spot and stalk a flock of turkeys. They're just so wary and so alert. I've seen it done, but certainly not very often, and you'll bust a lot more birds than you're going to harvest that way. The catch with that type of hunting is that if they see you move, you're done, and your hunt is over. During the day, from 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock is one of my favorite times to hunt, especially later in the season.
So Ian, decoys are a big part of turkey hunting tactics, and we're going to take a few minutes and just talk about different decoy setups. I know that there's different setups for the beginning of the season versus the end of the season, but when we're doing a spot and stalk, stick a bird in the ground and go hide and wait for it to come in. So Very different setup.
It's easy to overthink it, Carlin, I think. We give turkeys an awful lot of credit for their intelligence. We might be overthinking that a little bit, but there's no question that decoys really do assist the success of your hunt. You made a great point earlier about having, toms with fans and stuff like that. If they're a subdominant tom that you're trying to call in, and he's already had his butt kicked a couple of times, he doesn't want to come anywhere near another tom. He's afraid of it. So later on in the season, I don't tend to use the tom decoys as much as I do in the early spring. The early season before the mating has actually happened, the toms are still very much trying to sort out in their hierarchy of dominance. So they'll be a little bit prone to fighting and be a little bit more susceptible to a tom decoy that they want to come over and fight. I like to use a decoy just every time because it lets me establish my range. If I know that my effective range is 40 yards, I'm going to put a decoy in at 30, and if they can come inside, I know what adjustments I need to make, and if they're just beyond the decoy, then I know what sort of adjustments I have to make. So it's a really good indicator of exactly what your range is. But as far as being in the woods and calling turkeys into range, you don't need a decoy to do that, I don't believe. Having 2 or 3 turkeys out in front of you, again, being able to mimic the different calls that you're doing is going to attract other turkeys. And sometimes you're not going to be able to attract the tom. You've got a couple of hens and you're making some hen calling. There's going to be a dominant hen in every flock as well. And bringing her over is a pretty good tactic if you can get good at it, because the tom's going to follow. A very, very effective decoy setup is to have a tom, or even better, a jake decoy up above a prone hen. So in the turkey's mind, it looks like there's a younger or another turkey that's going to get a little bit of action and is going to drive the dominant tom absolutely crazy. And he is going to come over and he's going to come over to fight the jake off the hen. The direction that your decoys are pointing, I think, does make a difference. You've got all your decoys facing you. It's going to look like the turkeys are on alert and looking into the woods, and you don't want that. You want them to be, looking natural, looking calm, looking like they're feeding, and not having any clue that there's, somebody 10 yards into the woods.
Weather plays a big part on turkey hunting as well. I was always of the impression that if it's raining, then the turkeys are sitting in the bush and they're not coming out. That is not the truth. The only thing with the weather is you have to put up with it. So Ian mentioned that it is a recreational activity. So if you're out there and you're miserable, then just pack up and go home. But if you're prepared, the weather can actually offer you some opportunity.
Rain is good because it keeps your sound down. There's some natural movement when it's raining that can let you get away with a little bit more movement. Because of the sound, and turkeys relying so much on their hearing, when it's raining, it throws off entirely their hearing defense. So that's why during rain, especially during heavy rains, turkeys are going to go to the fields. And you'll see them out in the middle of the field, on those pouring, raining days. After a front has gone through is some of the greatest times to hunt deer, to fish, and turkeys are no exception. If it's been gross, windy, rainy, snowy couple of days, and then you get a calm, clear, crisp morning, that's a morning that you're going to want to be in the woods if you can possibly get there, because the animals are just going to be that much more charged up, that much more ready to get out and about and find partners. There is something in all of nature that responds to those quiet, calm days after a front has gone through. The morning hunt, we said before, getting in close to where the turkeys are going to roost, put out some decoys, try to call them off the roost. If that doesn't work, try the running and gunning where you're walking around, locating, trying to get on top of turkeys that are lonely or separated from the flock perhaps. Getting into the late afternoon and earlier evening, it's no longer about reading and calling so much as finding out where the birds want to be and getting there before then. It's where a lot of people will use blinds. Turkeys are pretty patternable, and they do, habituate to certain routines. And if they're crossing a field at a certain time every afternoon, you've seen that from the road, getting a blind set up somewhere along that route, getting a decoy out, you're getting to be where the turkeys want to be anyway. And it is more of an ambush type hunt as opposed to a spot and stalk or, calling in the birds, but very effective, and I know a lot of people have harvested turkeys that way.
Well, that's it for episode 4. Episode 5 deals with calling. Episode 5 is a big, big deal. We're going to talk about the box calls. We're going to talk about the push pin calls. We're going to talk about all kinds of different calls. So stay tuned for episode 5.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And as always, If you get an opportunity, take a kid hunting or take a grandparent out into the woods.
Absolutely. And always
keep it real.
keep it real. Take care for now, folks.